All right, here's the video that a lot of you have been waiting for. So, I'm probably going to lose my mind in this video. Whatever. Laugh, cry, do whatever you want, or feel however you want to feel. I don't know. Now, I've already told you that I have a few upcoming videos. I'm going to talk about the candidates potential or the potential and or declared candidates who are going to run for governor in the states of 2025 and 2026. So in 2025 next year, we have two states up. We have New Jersey and Virginia. New Jersey is a pretty much safe blue state, so I'm sure a Democrat will get elected there, but I'll talk about the candidates there anyway. Which seats I think are gettable in the Congress for 2026, which seats I think are gettable for the Senate in 2026, and I'm going to kind of rehash my state strategy. I think now I have a 14 state strategy, maybe 15. I'm going to look deeper into that. I'm still trying to figure that out. Long story, I'll explain that in another video. The potential candidates for president of 2028, or the candidates who I think will run, who I think are potential. I'm pretty sure on the Republican side it's going to be J.D. Vance because now he's the next face of the Republican Party after the other guy. And yeah, that about covers that. And then also the there's another one that I had in mind. I think I forgot to put on this paper, but when it comes to mine, I will tell you that either later on in this video or in the next video or in one of my other videos. So here I'm going to talk about who do I think is to blame for the results of this election result, not just for the president, but for the Senate, for Congress. Yeah. You have to forgive me if I can't really speak right now because I haven't gotten that much sleep since Tuesday. So here's the deal. One group that I blame, and I need Democrats to understand this, okay? Now, you can attack me, you can hate me, you can unfriend me, you can unfollow me, you can unsubscribe from me, but this really is constructive criticism for the most part because if they had just went with my strategy, we would have won. I know that sounds selfish and narcissistic and arrogant, but let me break it down for you. So one group I blame is top Democrats. Now, I will say, don't get me wrong, thank you, and I'm grateful to the Obamas, the Clintons, Bernie, AOC, Jasmine Crockett, Cory Booker, Elizabeth Warren, and Beto, and just a number, J.B. Pritzker, and a number of Democrats who came out and supported Harrison Walz, and they spoke at the convention, and they did the rallies, and I'm grateful for all the celebrities that they brought to the rallies and endorsed them. So you had Jennifer Lopez and Beyonce and Tyler Perry and Samuel Jackson and a number of others. They had speak at conventions. They did rallies in Texas and Nevada and Atlanta and just all these different places. So I have this thing called a. I have this thing called a. It was called a 12-state strategy. So the 12 states were Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Arizona, Nevada, Texas, Georgia, Florida, and North and South Carolina. And out of those states, I am pretty sure Trump ended up getting all those states, most of those states for sure. Some of them we pretty much knew he was going to get. We figured he was going to get Texas, but there's a reason I put Texas on that list, which I'll explain a little bit later. Now, we have to remember that in 2016, the main reason that Trump had won areas like Minnesota and Wisconsin is because Hillary didn't go there. And it was complacency, it was laziness, because she, along with most people, assumed that she would get it simply because her husband had won the states in the 90s and because Obama had won those states in 2008 and 2016. I don't know if Bush ended up winning those states. I think he got Michigan once. I think Al Gore got Michigan the first time. So I have to recheck those numbers because I could be wrong on that. So it was complacency and laziness that led to that. So that because Hillary didn't go to those states and Trump went there like 8 or 9 times. Now, here's the part where I'm kind of mixed because this year the Democrats campaigned in Pennsylvania what seemed to be at least 15 times. Trump was there once or twice. And we were still tied out there and he still barely edged it out. And that happened in a few other states because they did it here in Michigan a few times. And Trump just came here. I think he came here on the day of election. It was either the day of election or the day right before the election. He spoke in, I want to say that was either Novi or Grand Rapids. And so this is what I told Democrats to do. Top officials, governors, senators, congresspeople, state representatives, judges, state senators, school board members, city council members, anybody who pertained to this party that was supporting the Harris Walz campaign. Now, don't get me wrong, thank you for voting for them, but here was the main point of that strategy. The main point was to talk to independent and undecided voters in those states because those states have the highest block of independent voters. That's where most of the independent and undecided voters are at. There's a reason they're called swing voters. In some elections, they vote for the Democrat. In other elections, they vote for the Republican. So most of those people, according to statistics and according to the graphs and the charts and the numbers, most people in the state of Michigan, most people in the state of Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, Minnesota, they voted for, most of them voted for Bill Clinton when he ran both times. And I would say about half those people voted for Bush in one of the elections. Maybe some of them have voted for him twice. Most of those people overwhelmingly voted for Obama in 2008 and 2012. Most of them voted overwhelmingly for Trump in 2016. And just over half of them voted for Biden in 2020. And then guess what? Trump ended up winning them back in 2024. So they went Democrat here, they went Republican here. That's what a swing state is. That's what a swing voter is. It's like a swing, literally. It goes back and forth. And so those are the states where they were at. And so I told Democrats, we have to focus primarily on those states alone. And with those states that I listed, guess how many electoral votes that is? 199. And that doesn't include the states that Democrats are already set to win, like California, New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts, and Illinois, because those 5 states combined is 126 electoral votes. So you take those 5 states with the 126 and then take the 12 states with the 199, you put it together, that's 325, which means if she had won all those states that I suggested that I put on that list, she would have had 325 electoral votes, therefore winning the election. Not to mention overwhelmingly winning the popular vote, which apparently doesn't matter. Bush and Trump proved that one. But even if she had lost one of those states, let's say she lost Texas, which would be the most likely in that scenario, Texas or Florida, she still would be at over 300 votes because, according to the chart that I'm looking at here, because some of these states I can't remember off the top of my head, so I have to. Texas alone has 40 electoral votes. So 325 minus 40, that would be, you have 325, so 315, 305, 285. That puts her over 270. She still would have won. Or let's say she won Texas but then lost Florida. That would put her at 295, still winning. And Democrats, the purpose of that was to go to those states, whether it be in person or virtually, and talk to the undecideds, talk to the independents, talk to the swing voters, and ask them what is one of the issues that is most important to you, or what are some of the most important issues to you. And if they tell you, hey, let's say they tell you healthcare, education, unions, workers, wages, whatever it may be, and then you have to give them a policy proposal that says, okay, if your issue is education, let's talk about the K-12 school funding. Let's talk about doing free community college or at least free or cheap trade school. Because, if Kamala had talked to those people and let's say she said that, she'd have said, hey, I got a vice presidential pick right here. He did public free college if you make under 80K in his state as governor. And he also did, if your thing is, say, benefits at work with vacation days or sick days or paid family time, he also did 12 weeks paid family leave and 12 weeks paid sick leave. So, again, I don't know. I have a feeling that there were some Democrats that were doing it, but I don't feel it was enough because if that were the case, there's no way that we would have been tied out there because Republicans next to never talk about those issues. And when you talk about the issues of stuff like Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, most Democrats say we want to keep it where it's at or we want to expand it or extend it. Republicans are saying next to nothing about it. And when they do say something about it, chances are it's negative. Hey, we want to cut the funding for it or we want to gut this. That was in Rick Scott's plan. Senator Rick Scott of Florida, Republican, has a 12-point page. I think, what is it called? 12-point page? He has like a page, there's a PDF you can look up, and there's like 12 points on there about what he wants to cut and how much and all that stuff. He's talked about Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security. Ted Cruz talked about the same thing. They have to hammer away on those things. And again, it's not just on them. All the organizers and activists that I have on the ground in these different states, this is what you have to be doing. Because the people that you have at the rallies, these are pretty much 95 to 99% the people who are already going to vote for you. And this is what we have to do, not just for the presidential race, but also for the Senate races, especially in the swing states. This is what we have to do with the congressional races. This is what we have to do with state representative, state senator. Do this in every single election cycle, every single one. Hell, I would even say for the mayor's races, for the mayoral races. Here's another group that I blame. And by the way, I kind of put that together. So that's top Democrats, that's Harris Walls. And this one, I think you may agree or may disagree with me on this one, but I'll tell you who I kind of blame a little bit for this. And I kind of blame myself a little bit because I should have been putting this stuff out months ago, really, really putting in more effort into reaching out to more public pages and group pages where I'm asking people, like, because I did put in one group page, where are my undecided voters? Where are my independent voters? Why are you undecided? Why are you either leaning towards one candidate or another? You tell me why. I'll tell you about the achievements of the Biden Harris administration. I'll tell you about what Harris and Walls plan on doing. I'll also educate you further as to people keep saying, oh, she's the incumbent because she was vice president. I should have been putting in people's heads because a lot of Democrats weren't doing this. I should have been in people's heads. I should have been on people and saying, look, the vice president is not the one to dictate policy decisions. Okay? They don't do that. Now, the one exception being Dick Cheney, but of course that administration was a little bit different. George Bush was president, Dick Cheney was vice president, but really it was him that was running the show and being the puppet master and controlling the strings and pushing the buttons and giving the thumbs up. It was really him doing it, but that was different. Not every administration is like that. So I really just should have been telling people that I just put out this video talking about the PRO Act. I should have put that out beforehand. I did put out other stuff like the American Rescue Plan Act, the COVID relief package, the Paycheck Protection Program, the Economic Injury Disaster Loans Program, and what was the other one I just put out? The PACT Act, talking about the CARES Act and talking about the other achievements that they did, the student debt reduction, the medical debt reduction, the ending the contracts that the private prisons had with the Department of Justice, the massively reducing the drone war by over 70%. I mean, there are so many things I've talked about in it. Maybe I didn't talk about those things enough. Maybe I should have been repeating those things a lot more. Maybe I actually should have been going around in my neighborhood and nearby neighborhoods and talking to people and asking people who's undecided. Maybe I can get in their heads. And maybe there's not a chance, there could have been a chance where those people still would have rejected what I had on the table, because I have to admit, I don't consider myself to be that much of a persuasive person. I need to learn the art of persuasion a little bit more. Maybe I need to read a little bit more. I need to study that stuff a little more. So I kind of fault myself a little bit in that. But here's what I think is a bigger factor too. Here's what I think is a bigger factor. The media. This includes MSNBC. This includes CNN. This includes ABC. This includes NBC. This includes CBS. Now, I know some people are looking at this and saying, well, what about Fox News and Newsmax? Because they're the right-wing narrative humpers, and they are always kissing up to Trump, and then they sometimes pretend to like him or pretend to not like him. Here's the thing. I have no say whatsoever listen, I have nothing to do with Fox News. I have nothing to do with Newsmax. I never watch them. I expect them to kiss up to Trump. I expect them to be frauds, okay? Tucker Carlson admitted in private text that he hates Trump and he can't wait to see him go. And that came out, but guess what? He's still buddy with Trump and he's still supporting him. And so it's like, I don't expect anything out of Fox News. I don't watch them. They're going to kiss up to whoever their nominee is. I don't care that they act as an extension of the Republican Party. That's what they want to do. Let them do that. Newsmax, Breitbart, OAN, Daily Wire, all of them, that's fine for them. So let them do all that stuff. But here's why I blame CNN and MSNBC. Because now I know this is the part where people say, well, the news media is not supposed to be an extension of the Democratic Party. Well, look, as I said, I don't care that CNN and MSNBC are an extension of the Democrat Party. I don't care that Fox News and Newsmax are the extension of the Republican Party. They promote this candidate, or this their support these type of ideologies or whatever. I don't care about any of that. But here's the thing: if you're going to be biased and you're going to promote a candidate and talk about how bad the other candidate is, if that's what you say that you do, at least act like that. The problem with the media is they did not learn their lesson from 2016. They gave Trump endless amount of airtime. They gave him endless amount of free advertisement from 2016 and talking about how bad he is. He's bad. He's racist. He's sexist. He's misogynistic. He's xenophobic. He's transphobic. He's homophobic. All these things. He's bigoted. He's a narcissist. He's an egomaniac. He's a tax fraud. And he was talking about grabbing women and all this stuff. And listen, and I've said this before. I said this right after 2016. I said this in 2020. And I said this year. All those things are true. Don't get me wrong. They are. But if all you do is negative stories, Trump, bad, and you're not talking about anything that the Democrats are proposing or talking about what they're proposing, you're giving him all the attention. So all the people who are not political junkies like us might look at that and say, whether it's rightfully or wrongfully, there are a number of average voters who look at that and they go, you know what? They hate him this much, so he must be doing something right. All the other politicians or most of the other politicians are pro-war, and he pretends to be anti-war. He says he's anti-war, he's really not. And they think, he's going to cut off the funding to Ukraine and Israel, or he's going to do, and people just went into that. And again, there was a point in time where all they talked about was the indictments and the charges, and he's a crook and he's a criminal. Again, we know that to be true. But if that's all you're running, unfortunately, that indirectly helped him. Now, again, here's the part that obviously ticked off a lot of Democrats the most. A lot of Democrat voters and people who were anti-Trump and people who were pro-Biden or pro-Harris or pro-whatever Democrat. I have strong thoughts about this, but at the same time, it's kind of mixed thoughts. They were talking about how bad and racist and sexist and misogynist and all these things he is. They give him a town hall. Now, people will say, well, most of the people that attended that town hall were pro-Trumpers who were already with him, and most of the people who watched it. Now, this is the part where I have mixed thoughts, because on one hand, it's like I get it. You're the news media. You got to give cover to each of the candidates, and you have to talk about them. I saw Harris doing what I think was a town hall, and I don't even remember which YouTuber I was watching who played this clip. I don't know if it was it David Pakman or David Dole, or was somebody that had a humane moment with Harris was having a human moment with one of the women in the audience. And I don't know if that was a town hall, and if it was, I don't know where it was at. I don't know which station hosted it, but again, they just continued to ramp up all these things with Trump bad, and we keep saying, yeah, we know he's bad. And so here's how you go after him. If you only go after him with he's racist and sexist, unfortunately, that doesn't sway enough people. If you really want to go after him and you want to prevent him and do your best to prevent him from getting another term, here's what you do. You have to go after some stuff that he did, at least some of the stuff, if not all the stuff that he did while he was president. He says he's anti-war, but then look, he's doing a lot of the same stuff that he criticized the other presidents for doing. He said the other presidents were bombing countries. Okay, but then he continues to bomb countries. Drone strikes increased under him. You look at the numbers. How many drone strikes did Obama do in 8 years? Just under 2,000. How many drone strikes did Trump do in 4 years? Over 2,200. You did more drone strikes. So you said Obama and the other presidents were bad for doing drone strikes. So it increased under Clinton, Bush, Obama did drone strikes. But then you continued it. So you're not that. You attempted to coup Venezuela. You ripped up the Iran deal. And then, by the way, here's the other one too. And I don't know why nobody pointed this out. Why did nobody point this out? Democrats didn't point this out. The media didn't point it out. Harrison Walls didn't point this out. Nobody pointed this out. And I don't expect anybody on the Republican side to point this out because they like this. Here's the biggest one. You say that you're anti-war. And you say, we're going to stop these wars, and we're going to decrease the tension, and we're going to pull out these places. Not only did you continue the presence in those areas, you hired some of the most harshest, biggest neocon war hawks to your cabinet. And some of the people that you had in your cabinet were the same people that Bush and Cheney had in their cabinet. Example? Now, this is the part where people would say, oh, well, Trump is anti war and he wouldn't appoint pro war hawks in his cabinet. Name one. Name one. I can name five. Probably more than that. So he had two attorney generals. There was Jeff Sessions and William Barr, both pro war hawks. You had two secretaries of state, Rex Tillerson and Mike Pompeo. Really, really love war, especially Pompeo. And then here's the most obvious example of all. Here's the biggest one: John Bolton. John Bolton is so dangerous and so war hawkish, and he gets so turned on by war. He's somewhat, maybe arguably, a bigger war hawk than even somebody like Dick Cheney. That's pretty scary. That's scary to say or think or to know, and it's true. Do you know that when John Bolton came up in the Bush White House, even some of the Republicans were like, maybe, maybe not. But I mean, hey, I mean, because we like war, but he likes war too, but he might like it a little too much and he wants to go to war with. See, we liked the idea of, we sent the troops to Afghanistan and Iraq, but this guy's talking about wanting to go to war with Iran, wanting to go to war with North Korea, wanting to go to war with Russia, wanting to go to war with China. Like, this guy is, you cannot find a bigger war hawk than this guy. And Trump appointed him. Now, later on, he fired him because apparently there was a negative exchange between the two, and John Bolton said that this guy's not war hawkish enough. And so Democrats, they misunderstood that. They thought, oh, well, maybe Trump was too pro-war and John Bolton wanted to leave because no. You cannot find anybody except for maybe Henry Kissinger, but he's now deceased. But as far as anybody alive now, you cannot, and I mean cannot, find anybody who's a bigger war hawk than John Bolton. War is like pornography to him. That's the thing that turns him on. That's what he loves. He cannot live without it. He is addicted to war. And he worked under not just Trump, but he worked under both Bushes and Reagan. So a lot of the war crimes that were taking place during those administrations, he was very much a part of it because he was ambassador, and I think in one of them he was either Secretary of State or National Security Advisor. He was the National Security Advisor under Trump, but under both Bushes, I think he was one of the under Secretaries of State or there's another position that I'm kind of blanking on at the moment. I think he might have been ambassador under one of them as well. He was ambassador under Reagan as well. So the media and Democrats should have called that out. They should have called out the fact that, you're talking about on the jobs. How many jobs were outsourced under Bush? About 646,000. How many were outsourced under Obama? Just under 88,000. And that was 8 years. How many were outsourced under Trump's 4 years? Over 212,000. He ran in 2016 saying, I'm the anti-outsourcing president, and Obama was bad for outsourcing, but here I am outsourcing more jobs in 4 years than he did in 8. And also, there were clips that CNN showed that people in Pennsylvania and Ohio were upset with him and they were disappointed in him. They said, oh, yeah, I lost my job and I thought he wasn't going to outsource it. And there was a poll that came out in I want to say this was about 2018 or 19. It may have possibly even been early 2020 when they did a poll for the people who voted for him in Minnesota, Wisconsin. The poll at the time showed that 60% of the people who voted for him in those states were not going to vote for him in 2020. And so those people either voted for Biden or maybe a lot of them probably didn't vote or they went third party, whatever, but they did not vote for Trump in 2020. And then guess what we see in 2024? They run right back to him. The media should have been emphasizing that. The media also should have been pointing out stuff. Democrats should have been pointing out the fact that you say you wanted to so he was using rhetoric out of both sides of his mouth. He was saying back in 2016, he did an interview and they said, what is one of your priorities if you get in the White House? And he says, I'm I'm gonna cut the Department of Environmental. And then later on, he did that same question was asked when he went on another source and he said, "Oh, the DEP, the Department of Environmental Protection." Okay, anybody could argue maybe that was a slip of a tongue. It's called the Environmental Protection Agency. But then on the other side, he was using rhetoric on the opposite, saying he wanted to protect the Environmental Protection Agency. But then he hires a guy like Scott Pruitt to lead the agency, even though he sued the EPA twice in the past. Also, talking about protecting public education. Well, the person that you put in charge of the public education department is somebody who's actively against public education, Betsy DeVos. The guy that you put in charge of the head of Treasury, an executive from Goldman Sachs, who, by the way, he said this is somebody, if Hillary Clinton gets elected, she would have Goldman Sachs people in her White House. Obama had some and Bush had some. Okay, but then you just brought in Steve Mnuchin. So a lot of these people you put in talking about drain the swamp. No, drain the swamp. No, no, no. You are supporting the swamp. You are propping up more of that. So a lot of these things, and this is just barely the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot more. Guys, you should have hitting this stuff really hard at the rallies, at the convention, and going to these swing states and talking to these voters and putting that in their heads. And maybe that would have changed some minds. Maybe that would have changed some votes in some of these swing states, especially in Pennsylvania, where you have 19 electoral votes there. They look, that really would have helped. Now, again, there are certain states that don't matter nearly as much. Again, Democrats are already set to win. They're already set to win California. They're already set to win New York. They're already set to win New Jersey, Massachusetts, Illinois, because those are hardcore blue states. Just like Republicans are already set to win Arkansas, Alabama, Louisiana, Mississippi, Oklahoma. There's no way right now any Democrat is going to win that state on those states on the presidential level. Obama didn't even win those states. Okay, now he probably had more votes out there than most Democrats have, but ultimately it wasn't enough for him to win those states. But he had enough votes in other states. He still won both of his elections. He barely won Florida twice. So there's that. But it's, guys, I'm going to do another video talking about my state strategy. Now, again, here's the reason why I kept switching the numbers. Initially, I called it a 15-state strategy. So I had 15 states on there. Then later on, I changed it to 20 states. And then I looked at that and I said, maybe some of these states are not gettable right now. I might be reaching. Let me dial it down a bit. So then I put 10 states. Then I was like, okay, 12. Now here's what I saw 2 or 3 days before Election Day. 2 or 3 days before Election Day, Harris was leading Trump in Iowa by 3 points. 3. Do you know that Trump was leading Biden in that state by 18 or 19 points? Republicans almost always win Iowa, except for Obama in 2008. I'm pretty sure he won it in 2008 in the general, or was that just the primary? I think he did win Iowa in 2008. Now, of course, Mitt Romney, when he ran against Barack in 2012, he ended up winning Iowa. So, look. So I looked at that and I said, maybe I can add Iowa to my state strategy. So now make that the 13th state. And on the day of election, I'm looking at Harris versus Trump in Kansas. They were tied in Kansas for a while. I did not know that. I did not know Kansas could have been up for grabs. Now, ultimately, he still ended up winning Kansas, but just not by that much. Of course, McCain, Romney, Bush, these other Republicans, they won Kansas in a landslide. Trump barely won it by a couple percentage points. So now add that as the 14th state. So now I have to think to myself, because Kansas is a red state, but they have a Democrat governor. Kentucky is a red state. Mitch McConnell's been a senator out there since 1984, but they have a Democrat governor who's actually a little bit more to the left than I would have thought Kentucky would elect. But he ran against a candidate that was so terrible, that was so obsessed with Trump, and he said, oh, Trump is so great, and he didn't really talk policy. But that's a rarity there. So the question is Kentucky up for grabs? Maybe, probably even more so than a place like Tennessee, where Marsha Blackburn is from. So the next video, it's going to be a 14 or 15 state strategy. To be on the safe side, I might say, you know what? I'm going to go for 15. I'm just going to add Kentucky to that list. The next video is going to talk about a 15 state strategy. Now, here's the reason why. I know I'm digressing a little bit, but I have to say this. Here's the reason why I added Texas to that list. There's two major reasons why I added Texas to that list. The first reason is Democrat Beto O'Rourke ran in Texas twice. In 2018, he ran for the Senate against Ted Cruz. They were almost tied for a while. Ted Cruz was only leading by 2 or 3 points. Ted Cruz got lucky enough to barely edge it out. I don't think any Democrat or Republican came that close in a Texas Senate race, so that was new. And then Beto ran again in 2020 against was that 2020 or 22? I'm sorry, 2022. He ran against Governor Greg Abbott out there. They were tied for a long time, but then Abbott barely edged it out 1 or 2 points. So the fact that a Democrat came that close to winning Texas, that close, tells me we have a chance to get that. A few months ago, when Biden was still in the race, Trump was leading Biden by 13 to 15 points. This was back in May, June, early July, right before he dropped out. And Trump was leading Harris in Texas in the closing months by between 5 and 8 points. So his lead of course, obviously he still won Texas, but his lead in Texas was shrinking and shrinking. And that told me right there, Democrats could eventually get Texas. And I say, if we can't get it this year, we could get it the next election cycle if we really, really stomp the ground and really, really push hard. I mean, I guarantee you, Republicans were probably freaking out about that. And even though Trump won that state, Republicans were probably looking at that like, what the heck? We should have got Texas in a landslide. We should have been winning Texas by 15 to 20 points. And so, I'm just saying that Texas is essentially up for grabs, just so people know. And one more thing I want to say before I get back to the other group that I blame for this. There's a reason why Florida is on that list too. Now, I know Democrats say Florida's a stupid state. It's dumb and it's expensive to run ads down there. They got Ron DeSantis, they got Rick Scott and Marco Rubio and all these Republicans, far-right Republicans down there. Okay, so even though Florida has had all Republican governors since 1998, the fact of the matter is Andrew Gillum ran against Ron DeSantis in 2018. They were tied for a long time out there. And the margin by which DeSantis beat Gillum was tighter than the margin of Gore v. Bush. Now, I know that's not directly comparable because one was presidential and one was governor. So it's like, you don't have to deal with an electoral college. So none of that mess was going on. And then you had Charlie Crist run against DeSantis a couple years ago in 2022. They were almost tied for a long time. DeSantis barely won again. And then you also had Val Demings, Democrat, who ran against Marco Rubio in the Senate in 2022, and they were tied for a long time. And Rubio barely edged it out. So, people, let's not get it twisted. And then you had Debbie Powell just running against Rick Scott. He won by a little bit more of a comfortable margin than Rubio did against Val. So, guys, let's not get it twisted. Florida is up for grabs. Obama barely won Florida twice. He beat McCain in Florida in 2008 by 3 percentage points, and then he beat Romney down there in 2012 by about half a percentage point. The last Democrat that did really well in Florida in a presidential race was Bill Clinton. Now, he won comfortably against Bush Sr. and Bob Dole. So trust me when I tell you, Florida is not completely a lost cause. Okay, they might be a lost cause in the sense of who they have down there as representation, but Democrats could get Florida. And I feel that Democrats did not put enough effort down in Florida. I don't even know if they campaigned down in Florida. I really don't know if they did. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Did they? Tell me if they did. I could be wrong. But I don't think they did. So those groups are to blame for, again, they had a lot of great strategy, and Harris had a lot of good policy proposals. Don't get me wrong. Eliminating medical debt, $25,000 down payment on first-time home buyers, the allowing Medicare to include at-home health care, and extending the child tax credit to $6,000 per child. Now, by the way, to you families and parents out there, who did not vote for her, and you, let's say you're in a rough situation, you need your child to have money, you need money for your family, well, guess what? If you voted for Trump over her, you just voted against that. And so now you're not going to get that. That is a promise. That is a guarantee. You will not get that now. So Again, this is what Democrats in the media should have been hammering at left and right. You should have just been at it. Just keep going, going, going. Don't stop. That's what you had to do and go in all of those states. And you have to do this in every election cycle. Every single one. Every single election cycle. I don't care what the polls look like. If the Democrat has, I don't care if the Democrat has 90% in the polls and the Republican has 10% in the polls. You still go down there and you still talk to those people because the more we lead in the polls, the more complacent we get. And we saw that in 2016. We saw that in a few other elections. Guess what? You still have to get out there and vote because complacency kills us. I have a feeling that there was a lot of complacent voters out there. And if you are complacent and you chose not to vote because you assumed Harris would win, well, guess what? You're to blame too. Now, I have to admit, my prediction was wrong because I did predict that she would win. And I told people, I said, I think there's about a 60% chance she wins. And guess what? I was wrong on that. But guess what? I'm not to blame for that specifically because I didn't get complacent. I did not get complacent. I still got to the polls and voted like I was supposed to. I mean, I didn't go to the polls. I voted early. I got the ballot at home. But I still took care of that. So, again, I need every Democratic former president. I need every Democratic governor or former governor. I need every Democratic attorney general, every Democratic secretary of state, every Democratic U.S. senator, every Democratic state senator, every Democrat congressperson, every Democrat state representative, every Democratic judge, every Democratic county executive, every Democratic county commissioner, every Democratic school board member, every Democratic city council member. I need all of them to spread this message, and I need all of them to go to each of those states, whether it be in person or virtually, and talk to those voters and hammer them on those things. Now, this group is probably somewhat less important because this is more primary rather than general. I'll tell you who else I blame for this. This more so deals with the idea of allowing Trump to continue to rise to power. The candidates in the Republican primary. Now, again, don't get it twisted. I don't like any of them. I don't agree with a word any of them said, anything on policy or anything, whatever. Who all did we have? Whether it be short term or long term. Of course, we had some that didn't last long. Tim Scott, Mike Pence. And who are the others? We had Ron DeSantis, Nikki Haley, Chris Christie, Vivek Ramaswamy, and is that it? Was there more of them? Okay, put if I'm missing a name, put it in the comment section. But they hammered Trump a little bit, but not as much as they should have. Now, again, I hate to give constructive criticism to Republicans because I'm not a Republican and I'm not here to help them in any way, shape, or form. I'm here to help defeat them on all levels, from the presidential all the way down to the school board. But they sat there like a bunch of cowards and weasels, and they let that man just sweep them. He got the nomination. The man didn't even go on stage to debate. He said, well, I'm already ahead in the polls, and so I'm going to win. And granted, they don't have any rules or laws about saying that you have to go on there and debate. I mean, yeah, you could opt out if you want to. But if I was one of them, listen, they should have said, hey, Don, you coward, whatever. I don't know. I'm just throwing out stuff here. I know this sounds cheesy or whatever, but hey, you coward, get your ass up on this stage and debate me. You think you're better than me? You think your policies are better than mine? Which they're really not. They all have the same policies. They just have different ways of wording and getting the message across. You think you're a better leader than me? Hey, get up here, debate me. One of us is going to be more suited to beat Joe Biden and Kamala Harris because we don't have the legal troubles. We don't have indictments. Like I said, don't get me wrong. They're all disgusting. I don't like any of them. And me personally, it wouldn't have made that much of a difference which one of them got the nomination because either way I was going to be against them. Nikki Haley is another war hawk that Trump put in his cabinet. So again, let's not pretend like that's not a factor. Now, those are all the people that are to blame for this result here. So call me narcissistic, call me arrogant, call me up on a high horse, tell me to get off your high horse and stop blaming other people. Guys, I just told you. The people that determine the results of every presidential election are independent voters. Independent voters. That's why they're called swing voters. In some elections, they voted Democrat. In other elections, they voted Republican. Most of the people in the state of Michigan, I don't care if you don't believe me, if you don't take my word for it. This is just a fact. Okay, I can't speak for all those states right off the top of my head, even though I have an idea. But I can tell you, I know for sure with Michigan, how most of Michigan voted. in presidential elections and in governor's elections. Now, this might be a lot that I'm throwing at you, but I have to give you the facts, and you can check the numbers on Wikipedia or ChatGPT or wherever to confirm that what I'm telling you is true. Most of Michigan voted for Bill Clinton twice. Most of Michigan voted for Bush at least once. I don't know if they did it both times. I think most of Michigan voted for Bush in 2004, but most of them voted for Gore in 2000. Most of them voted for Obama in both 2008 and 2012. Most of Michigan voted for Trump in the 2016 general election. Most of them voted for Biden in 2020, and now most of them just voted for Trump again. Now, here's what's funny. Look at this. 1990, let me just go back to 1996. They voted for Bill Clinton in the presidential election, who's a Democrat. 1998, in the governor's race, they voted for John Engler, who's a Republican. 2000, they vote for Gore, Democrat. 2002, they vote for Jennifer Granholm, Democrat governor. 2004, presidential race, they vote for Bush, a Republican. 2006, they vote for Democrat governor, Jennifer Granholm. 2008, most of Michigan votes for Obama, Democrat. 2010, they vote for a Republican governor, Rick Snyder, who's a huge crook, by the way, who should be in jail right now. 2012, they vote for Obama again, Democrat. 2014, governor's race, they vote for Snyder, Republican again. 2016, they vote for Trump, Republican. 2018, Democrat governor, Gretchen Whitmer. 2020, Biden, Democrat, presidential. 2022, re-elect Whitmer, good job. And 2024, they vote for Trump again. Democrat, Republican, Democrat, Republican. Going back and forth like a swing. That's what I'm trying to tell you. That's how Michigan is, and that's how a lot of other states are. Again, I don't know the exact numbers for the other states, but I do know that a lot of the other states did vote for Obama twice and flipped for Trump in 2016. Minnesota did that, Wisconsin did that, Ohio did that, Pennsylvania did that, and Florida did that. So that's why you have to focus on those states. If you do not focus on those states, they're up for grab for Republicans. Now, Pennsylvania was tricky this year. Now, I don't know what happened with Pennsylvania this year because Democrats went to Pennsylvania at least 15 times. Trump was out there once or twice, and we were still tied, and he still won. So, good job campaigning in Pennsylvania. I don't know what the hell happened there. But all I'm telling you is we have to keep this in focus in every election cycle. So, I'll tell you what I will be doing. I'm going to not pay attention at all to presidential politics for the next 4 years. I know that to be a fact. I will not be watching CNN. I will not be watching MSNBC. I will not, of course, I'm already not watching Fox News. That's way out the question. Same thing with Newsmax. I'm not watching none of them. But I got to tell you, a lot of the media, you failed. And I like a lot of these people in the media individually. Like I said, you got, your Stephanie Rule and Morning Joe, Mika Brzezinski, and Jake Tapper, and I know Cuomo was on there. You got Anderson Cooper and Rachel Maddow and Joy Reid. I would say Rachel Maddow, Joy Reid, Brooke Baldwin. I would say those are probably among some of the best ones that they had between MSNBC and CNN. But guess what? At the end of the day, these are things you have to hammer away. You're talking to average voters. These are not political junkies. When they look at the television, I don't know what it is. I don't know why, but the average voter for some reason is attracted to Fox News. I don't know why that is. I wish that wasn't the case. I wish that I understood the art of persuasion to get people away from Fox News and not necessarily to get all their info from CNN and NBC, but don't watch Fox. Don't watch Newsmax. I don't know what it is, but people will watch it. And Democrats, the CNN and MSNBC, they just haven't found a way to properly counter that. Because all they talked about was indictments and charges. Again, we know Trump's a crook. He was found liable in 3 different civil suits for sexual abuse, defamation, and fraud. And he just had the 34 counts in the business, falsifying business records case, which I think that was in New York as well. So, but again, if that's all you focus on and not talk any policy proposal or talk any of the achievements that the Biden-Harris administration did, what type of service are you doing for the voters? And what type of service are you doing for the Democrat Party? And what type of service the Democratic Party doing for the voters? Guys, you have to talk to these people. You have to talk to these people. So guess what? I just saw a thing where, and again, I can blame the politicians and the voters for this one. I just received a somebody had posted, and I have to double check this. I think one of the House Republicans just introduced something to cut funding and reduce payments for Social Security. If you're a person who relies on Social Security and you did not vote for the Democrats, well, guess what? Or I better say this to make it more accurate. If you voted for Trump, if you voted for Trump and Vance, well, then guess what? You're getting exactly what's coming to you. Democrats say they want to protect your Social Security. Republicans say they want to cut your Social Security. Same thing with Medicare, Medicaid, and you act like, and somehow it's ridiculous to come to the conclusion that if you're looking at these two candidates, and one candidate says, I'm going to protect your Social Security, I'm going to protect your Medicare and Medicaid, and we're going to work to expand it. The other side is saying, no, we're going to cut it and we're going to reduce the funding and reduce the payments for it. It's beyond absurd and beyond ridiculous to draw the conclusion that they're the same. It is ridiculous. And not only do I blame a lot of voters for being uneducated and ill-informed on that, I also blame politicians for not putting that in people's heads. You should have been out there educating the people. You should have been out there talking to them. I don't know that there's much more to say on this. So now, again, I do have some positive thoughts that I want to get to in another video, because I do have a list of people that I want to thank for their hard work with promoting the Harris Walz campaign. And then I also want to talk about which people I thought were the best speakers at the Democratic convention, and also which celebrities I think had the most had the best speeches at the rallies. So I've already done different videos where I've talked about the celebrities who endorsed Harris Walz. Of course, we already know that we had Beyonce and Taylor Swift. We had Jennifer Lopez, Jennifer Aniston, and Cardi B, and Megan Thee Stallion, and Tyler Perry, and Samuel Jackson, and a number of other people. So I thank them for that. I'm glad that they used their platform to help get out the vote and everything. But guys, this is all constructive criticism right here. Okay, even if I chose to give up politics completely, let's say we don't win any seats in 2026, I am going to, I think, stop my active involvement, even though I'm still going to vote, because apparently nobody's listening to me, and I just feel like my work has gone unappreciated, because people always say, well, name one reason why you're supporting Biden, name one reason why you're supporting Harris. And guess what I've done? I've given out multiple reasons. And Democrats don't flip that right back around and say, well, tell me why you're supporting Trump, without mentioning why you don't like Biden and Harris. And a lot of those people, again, Trump, Vance, and all those Republicans and all those right-wingers that spoke at his rallies and the convention and all that, most of them kept repeating the same talking point. They just kept saying, Fox News and Newsmax, same thing. They kept saying, Democrats, communist, Democrats, socialist. Democrats bad because they are doing policies that are just not good. Okay, like what? They talked about, they tried to attack Tim Walz for doing free lunch program in his state. And I think Tim Walz kind of attacked it a little bit, but again, I'm so arrogant and narcissistic and selfish that I just wish that there was a way that I can, I wish every single top Democrat official had this, like their brains just linked up to mine, and so they think what I think, and they would be saying what I'm saying. Again, that's what I call wishful thinking. That's just all fantasy of. But it's like, if I were Tim Walz, I would easily stand in front of the entire Republican Senate. I would stand in front of every Republican congressperson. I would stand in front of every Republican governor, and I would tell Trump, and I would tell Romney and Scott and Cruz and Gates and all these people, yes, I did free lunches and breakfast for kids at school. Yes, I did that because I think that giving starving kids free food is a good move, not just politically, but also morally. So yes, I support starving kids being able to eat. You don't? And that's where you have to put the Republicans on the defensive, and then they're forced to answer that, and they say, well, yeah, kids, there's only one of two things that they could say. They can either say, one, no, I don't support starving kids having free food. And then guess what? The voters can look at that and they say, oh, well, I have children who, we know children who are starving because, these families are low income, and let's say they may not have one of their parents, and they do have one parent, but they rely on government assistance, or they have a job where they're only working minimum wage, whatever. The voters would look at that and say, well, we have a Democrat governor here, and we have 9 states, by the way, that did free school lunch for kids. Minnesota's one of them. Massachusetts is one. California. and Michigan, and I think maybe Wisconsin. There's a few other states on that list. I think Illinois is one of them. I can't remember all 9 off the top of my head. I did a video about it. Go check that out. That's one answer they could give. The other answer they give is, we support kids being able to eat, but that's just that's just not the way to do that. Okay, well then what is the way to do it? Well, I don't know, but we can't do it the communist socialist way. So kids being able to eat food without having to pay, that's communist. Well, yeah, and because that's just too far left, and they have nowhere to go with that. That's why I said the Democrats need to stop playing patty cakes with the Republicans, because again, it would also put in the minds of a lot of these voters who feel that they're disenfranchised and they think the two parties are the same. The Democrats have to prove that they're not the same as the Republicans. Okay, you have to prove we're not the same as them on healthcare. We're not the same as them on education. We're not the same on them as unions. We're not the same on them as wages. We're not the same on them as workers. We're not the same on them on, like I said, the free lunch thing, which you have the Republican Study Committee, which is 3/4 of the House Republican Party. They voted to ban any and all states from doing free school meals for kids. The Republicans did that. Democrats, every Democrat should have pointed that out. Every Democrat should have pointed that out. It's not a question. The two parties are not the same, and Democrats should have been out there stomping the ground, proving that they're not. Now, Tim Walz did something on the day of election or the day before the election, and he was talking to, he was in what appeared to be either a diner or a coffee shop or whatever, some small place, and he was talking to 2 or 3 guys. It was, they were middle-aged to older guys. They looked like they were in their 40s or 50s. And he was talking about manufacturing jobs, and I think he mentioned the CHIPS Act, which brought 800,000 manufacturing jobs, and how the Republicans were against that. And then you got Maria Salazar, who's a Republican congresswoman in Florida, voting against that bill, and then later doing an interview saying, I don't remember if I voted for or against it, but I see that it's doing good things for my state. And so, yeah, I mean, it's a good bill, and, and she just takes credit for it, even though she voted against the damn thing. They should have been hammering that and pointing that out. And guess what? He was talking to those guys, and those guys came out and said, okay, we're voting for you. They look at the camera and say, yeah, we're voting Tim Walz. We're voting Kamala Harris. They're talking to the average voters, which is good. They were doing it to, I'm not saying that they didn't do it at all. They did. But on the other side, you got Trump and Vance hanging out with Elon Musk, and they're talking to a group of billionaires and multimillionaires where they're saying, he literally said in a video, he said, hey, you're rich as hell, and I'm going to give you tax cuts, and I'm going to do policies that benefit you. Guys, he spoke nothing on healthcare. He spoke nothing on education. He spoke nothing on unions, and Democrats should have been pointing that out. Now, to be fair to them, I think that they saw that distinction, as far as Harris, Walz, and the top Democrats. I think they were probably complacent enough and bold enough to think that the voters saw the difference in that. Well, guess what? Clearly they didn't, because if that was the case, he wouldn't have won freaking Pennsylvania. He wouldn't have won Ohio. He wouldn't have won Michigan. So guys, I'm going to do another video. I am going to lay out my 15-state strategy. Okay? These 15 states do not include the states that Democrats are already set to win. Now, did I add... What were the extra 5 states that I added on here? I had it right here on ChatGPT. Hold up. Let me pull it up right quick. This thing is going kind of slow. Illinois. Okay. Plus Kentucky. Okay. My 15-state strategy means that if Democrats on the presidential level win these 15 states, all 15 states, including... Again, this is aside from the 5 states that are already set to win. Again, let me repeat this. California, New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts, Illinois. Those are 5 states that automatically go Democrat. So that's already, aside from them, the other 15 states alone, that's 333 electoral votes. If Democrats win those states in every single election, I promise you the Republicans will never see the White House again. A day in life. They will never see the White House again. So guys, I really hope that some of you are taking what I'm saying seriously. And if you have any questions whatsoever, any questions about which candidates are running in certain states and certain districts and certain. If you need me to reach out to those candidates and you want me to talk to them and you want me to bring them on my show and do a live video with them, whether it be on Facebook or Instagram or YouTube or wherever, don't hesitate. Give my information to them. You don't have to ask my permission. All my information is under the About section under my Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Talk to your candidate, whoever, and say, hey, we want to help give you a little bit more exposure. Everything is underneath there. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. My email is there. My number is there. Everything is under the About section on all of my profiles, on all of my social media sites. So, guys, again, let's try not to watch the news for the next 4 years because we've already given this guy way too much attention and he likes that. We can't keep giving him what he likes. So I think that's it. I think that's the end of my rant. And I'm trying to debate if I even feel like doing a video after this or if I'm getting ready to pass out because I'm going to need some sleep. So just wanted to put that out there. And by the way, yeah, so comment all of your thoughts. Again, if you have any disagreements with me, I'm sure many of you do. Let me have it. Let me have it. I don't care. I'll take it. I'll take it. So take everything I said. Please keep it in mind. And do me a favor and subscribe to my YouTube. I still need YouTube subscribers, people. I'm at 390 right now. I'm trying to get to 500 by the end of the year. And I'm trying to get to 1,000 by the end of next year. So that's that. And yeah. Well, like I said, I'm taking a break for a bit. And once we get more candidates who are either expressed interest or potential or filed paperwork or declared to run for governor in Virginia and New Jersey next year, or Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Minnesota of 2026, and the candidates who are going to run for the Senate and the Congress, I'll be ready to talk about that. I'll tell you who the candidates are, which ones I like the most, or who I think have the highest chances of winning the primary. Therefore, I'll promote them in the general election. So we'll go from there, and that's it. So subscribe to my YouTube. Stay tuned.